And this is the second part of that two-part document that from last week that I talked about from Eric Douglas. If you enjoyed that first one, this one is just as long, very insightful and informative. So I hope you enjoy it.
Welcome to Colonize the Ocean podcast, where we discuss oceanic colonization, exploration, and education with your hosts Adam Jewell and Brendan Traxler.
All right. Have you ever, pictured yourself living and working underwater, for weeks or even months at a time?
Wow. Yeah.
Not just, quick dives, but really inhabiting the ocean depths.
Yeah.
That's where our deep dive today is taking us.
Okay.
Into Eric Douglas's article, Depth and Time for the Future of Underwater Exploration.
Oh.
To really understand this whole world of underwater habitats.
Right.
What they are,
Yeah.
why they're so important, and where this field might be headed.
Really interesting stuff. It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
What was once, pure science fiction
Right.
is actually starting to become reality.
Yeah.
There are companies out there seriously dedicated to making underwater living a real possibility.
Yeah. And the article features Deep Eye.
Okay.
This company with a vision so grand it's almost mind-boggling.
Wow.
Their CEO, Kurt Kreck, wants to create a sort of underwater NASA for the 21st century.
Like an underwater NASA. That's ambitious.
Yeah, it is.
It's more than just, putting structures underwater. It's like they're looking at the entire picture, almost like an entire ecosystem for underwater living deep.
Right.
Is developing the habitats.
Uh-huh.
Yes, but they're also looking at, the advanced diving tech you would need.
Yeah.
They're even training the aquanauts who'd be living and working in these environments.
Wow.
They want to make humans, quote, aquatic in the fullest sense of the word.
That's a big goal.
It is.
And they're not just theorizing. They're putting plans into action.
Right.
On a global scale.
That's amazing.
They're headquartered in London, but their R&D labs are over in Bristol, England, handling all the engineering and manufacturing.
I see.
And get this, they even acquired this massive quarry. It used to be the National Dive and Activity Center in Chepstow.
No way, a whole quarry.
Yeah.
That's huge.
It is a behemoth.
So what are they doing with it?
600 meters long,
Wow.
100 meters wide, and 18 meters deep.
Seriously.
Deep is using it for aquanaut training
Yeah.
and to pressure test their habitats.
Oh, that makes sense. You need somewhere massive like that to simulate those conditions. The scale of their ambition, when you think about a facility like that,
Yeah.
it's just really apparent. They've invested heavily in this whole vision, too.
Yeah, they have.
Pouring in, get this, $116 million and over 85,000 design hours since 2021.
That's a serious commitment.
Yeah.
So with all that time and money, what exactly are they building?
Right.
Deep's crown jewel is something called a Sentinel underwater habitat system,
Okay.
designed to be modular,
So you can.
so it can be redeployed and reconfigured as needed, with a projected lifespan of 25 to 30 years.
Wow.
Picture this.
Okay.
A structure with separate rooms for 6 people,
Right.
a dive center, complete with a moon pool
Yeah.
so you can enter and exit the water.
Oh, cool.
And the coolest part,
Yeah.
the ability to expand by adding more modules as needed.
So it can grow. That modularity is key. It means Deep can tailor the habitat to whatever research goals they have or the specific demands of the environment. Need a dedicated lab space. Add a lab module, more living quarters. Tack on another habitation module. It's like underwater construction with Legos.
It is. And now here's where things get really thought-provoking.
Okay.
Crack makes this really compelling comparison
Yeah.
between Sentinel and the International Space Station.
Interesting.
He argues that the continuous human presence on the ISS, that's what led to all those amazing scientific discoveries in space.
Because you have people there all the time, observing, experimenting. Makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What if we'd invested the $150 billion spent on the ISS over the past 23 years into underwater habitats instead?
Right.
Like, where would our understanding of the oceans be today?
Yeah.
Would we have made more progress on climate change? Could we have found entirely new marine resources?
Yeah.
The potential is just immense.
It is. And to get ready for real-world deployments. Deep is taking it a step further.
How so?
They're building a full-size working mock-up of Sentinel on the surface.
Oh, wow. So they can really put it through its paces.
Exactly.
That's smart.
This lets the aquanauts train for every single aspect of the mission before they go down.
That's critical. Imagine being able to rehearse everything from, your daily routine to emergency procedures.
Right.
All while practicing with the moon pool, just like they'd use in a real habitat. This level of preparation is vital for these long-duration missions. It's not a quick trip to the store, right?
No. So why is deep bedding so big on these habitats?
Good question.
They believe it represents like a fundamental shift in how we approach underwater research.
I see.
Moving away from those short-term saturation dives.
Okay.
They want to establish long-term underwater living and research. They see 3 huge advantages to habitats over traditional methods: more time, dedicated space, and the flexibility to configure missions to their specific needs.
That makes a lot of sense. Those advantages, they're impossible to ignore. Even with all the modern rebreathers we have.
Yeah.
Traditional saturation dives to depths of, say, 100 to 150 meters, they only allow for a very limited bottom time.
Right.
You might get 10 or 15 minutes down there before needing hours and hours of decompression.
It's true. It's a pretty stark reality. The article points out that 30 days of those dives would only yield about 4 hours of actual research time,
Oh, wow.
but a staggering 9.5 days
Jeez.
spent decompressing.
That's a lot of wasted time.
It is. Plus, every single dive carries the risk of decompression sickness.
The bends. That's a serious concern. Habitats completely change that equation, though, by living at depth.
Yeah.
Aquanauts can spend far more time actually working and researching
Right.
with less focus on that whole decompression rigmarole.
So much more efficient.
Yeah.
Instead of constantly going up and down,
Yeah.
imagine being able to dive in the morning, do your work, then spend the afternoon analyzing samples and data in a lab right there in the habitat.
No more surface trips eating up valuable time.
Exactly.
That's huge. It's a force multiplier for scientific output.
Yeah.
Crack estimates that 30 days in a habitat could equal 7 to 12 years worth of traditional research.
That's incredible.
It's mind-blowing, that difference.
And it's not just about quantity.
Right.
It's about quality.
Of course, yeah.
Having dedicated labs
Yeah,
and the ability to tailor the habitat to the specific research goals
Right.
makes for a much more focused and efficient environment. It's like
Yeah.
purpose-built for discovery.
Absolutely. And while habitats might seem, expensive up front,
Yeah.
they offer a surprisingly cost-effective alternative.
Yeah.
When you consider that massive increase in research output, you're essentially swapping initial cost for operational efficiency and scientific productivity on a whole new level. It's a smart investment, really, when you think about it.
Okay, we've seen the potential benefits,
Yeah.
but let's really break down how this changes the game for saturation diving. How does living in a habitat really compare to those traditional dive methods?
Okay, so traditional saturation diving, it's like this constant battle against the clock.
Yeah.
You have limited time at depth, and then this huge chunk of the mission is dedicated to decompression. It's a logistical nightmare, frankly, and it places a really heavy physiological burden on the divers themselves.
It's true. It's not just the physical limitations, though. That constant up and down,
Yeah.
it impacts the kind of research that can even be done.
Of course.
Those short bursts of data collection,
Yeah.
they don't allow for the in-depth observation and experimentation that's possible with the sustained presence underwater.
It's like trying to, study an entire rainforest ecosystem by parachuting in for 15 minutes a day.
Right.
You're only getting a tiny glimpse of what's really going on.
Right.
With a habitat, you're living in that rainforest, so to speak.
Yeah.
Seeing its rhythms and patterns unfold over time.
You get the whole picture.
You do. You can conduct long-term experiments that were simply impossible before.
Yeah.
Because of those time constraints.
Right. That's a fantastic analogy. It really underscores how these habitats could revolutionize our understanding of the underwater world.
Yeah.
It's about getting that deep, immersive experience. And we can't forget about the safety aspect either.
Of course not.
Traditional saturation diving means repeatedly exposing divers to the dangers of decompression sickness.
Right.
But living at depth in a habitat, you're eliminating those constant ascent and descents, significantly reducing the risk and making the whole operation much safer.
It's a win-win in a lot of ways. Even with all these challenges, though, there's something undeniably captivating about the idea of living underwater, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely.
It speaks to our innate curiosity, this desire to explore the unknown.
Yeah.
Maybe even like a primal connection to the ocean that we all share. It's
Right.
like we're trying to reclaim a part of ourselves that we left behind when we first crawled out of the sea millions of years ago.
I like that.
Drawn back to the depths, seeking to understand both the world around us and our place within it.
It's a powerful image for sure.
It's a powerful motivator, and it's what drives explorers,
Yeah.
scientists,
Yeah.
even everyday people,
Right.
to push those boundaries of what we think is possible.
It's that human drive to explore.
Absolutely. And as we continue to develop these underwater habitats,
Yeah.
I think we'll learn as much about ourselves
Right.
as we do about the oceans themselves.
It's a journey of discovery, both inward and outward. But let's shift gears a bit
Okay.
and think about the more practical side of this.
All right.
How do you actually keep a habitat like Sentinel running smoothly?
Right.
What about the basics like food, water, and power? How do they handle those logistics?
That's where the engineering gets truly remarkable.
Yeah.
These habitats are essentially self-contained ecosystems
Yeah.
designed to support human life for extended periods.
Okay.
They have to have their own life support systems.
Right. To provide breathable air, clean water, and manage waste disposal.
Makes sense.
It's quite complex.
So instead of transporting everything back and forth from the surface,
Yeah.
they're creating these miniature self-sufficient cities under the sea.
In a way, yes.
That's amazing.
To achieve that level of self-sufficiency, they utilize advanced filtration systems and closed-loop recycling technologies. Air is constantly filtered and scrubbed of carbon dioxide. Wastewater is treated and purified for reuse. It's all about minimizing waste and maximizing efficiency. Every resource is precious down there.
It has to be. What about power generation? You can't exactly run an extension cord down to the seabed.
No, you can't. They often utilize a combination of renewable energy sources like solar and wave energy, supplemented by underwater cables connected to land-based grids when feasible. They have to be creative.
Yeah, I bet. And what about communication? Staying in touch with the surface world is, critical, especially in an emergency.
Absolutely. They usually rely on a mix of underwater acoustic modems and fiber optic cables. Those fiber optic cables, they provide the high bandwidth data transfer needed for things like video conferencing and real-time data sharing.
So they're not completely cut off.
No,
It really does sound like a technological marvel,
it is.
creating these self-sufficient underwater communities.
Yeah.
It's an incredible feat of engineering. All of this cutting-edge technology must come at a pretty steep price, though, right?
Well, you're not wrong. Building and operating these underwater habitats, it requires a significant investment.
Yeah.
However, as we've touched on earlier,
Uh-huh.
the potential return on that investment in terms of, scientific knowledge and understanding is truly immense.
So you're saying that when you compare the cost of a habitat to the cost of traditional research methods,
Yeah.
which often involve, expensive research vessels and repeated dives,
Yeah.
it starts to look more reasonable.
Exactly.
It's a different way of thinking about the cost-benefit analysis.
It is. It's about shifting our perspective and recognizing the long-term value of establishing that sustained presence in the underwater world.
Okay, so we've talked about the challenges,
Uh-huh.
the logistics,
Yeah.
but we can't forget about the potential rewards here.
Of course not.
What kinds of scientific discoveries could really be made with these habitats?
Now, that's where things get really exciting. Imagine the possibilities.
Yeah.
We could study deep-sea ecosystems in unprecedented detail,
Okay.
observe marine life behaviors over extended periods,
Uh-huh.
even conduct experiments that were previously impossible because of those time constraints we talked about.
We could unravel the mysteries of bioluminescence,
Yeah.
discover new species, maybe even find new sources of food or medicine. The potential is huge.
It is. And let's not forget the potential for climate change research. By studying the oceans, we can learn more about how climate change is impacting marine ecosystems and what steps we can take to mitigate its effects.
Right. It's like having a permanent research station in the Amazon rainforest.
Yeah.
But instead of trees, you have coral reefs and hydrothermal vents.
It opens up a whole new world of scientific inquiry.
It does. It's a thrilling prospect, for sure, and it's what makes this field so exciting.
Absolutely.
We're on the brink of a new era of ocean exploration, and underwater habitats will undoubtedly play a key role in shaping that future.
I think so, too. But with all this talk of exploration and discovery,
Yeah.
it's important to consider the potential impact on the environment as well.
Right, of course.
How do we ensure that these habitats don't harm the very ecosystems we're trying to study?
That's a crucial question.
Yeah.
So what steps are being taken to minimize their environmental footprint?
Well, they're designing habitats to have minimal impact on the seabed itself. They're using advanced materials that are both durable and environmentally friendly, and they're implementing strict protocols for waste management and pollution control.
That's good. And they're also working closely with marine biologists and conservationists, right, to make sure their activities aren't disrupting sensitive ecosystems or harming marine life.
Precisely. It's about finding that balance between exploration and conservation. Between scientific advancement and environmental responsibility, we're not just visitors in this underwater world.
Right.
We have a responsibility to protect and preserve it for future generations.
Absolutely. With all the challenges and complexities we've discussed,
Yeah.
why do you think companies like Deep are so determined to make underwater habitats a reality? What's really driving this pursuit?
You know, I think it's a convergence of several factors. Scientific curiosity, for sure, a desire to push the limits of human ingenuity,
Yeah.
and a growing understanding of just how important the oceans are to our planet's health
Right.
and our own survival.
It's like we're finally realizing
Yeah.
that we can't truly understand our planet without understanding the oceans.
Exactly.
They cover over 70% of its surface, after all.
They do. And as we face these, global challenges like climate change and resource depletion,
Yeah.
the oceans might hold the key to many of the solutions.
It's true. They're a source of food, energy, and even potential medicines. By studying them in greater depth, literally and figuratively, we can unlock their secrets and learn how to live more sustainably on this planet.
Absolutely. It's a powerful motivator, and it's what fuels companies like Deep to invest in this seemingly audacious but ultimately essential pursuit.
It's about expanding our knowledge, our understanding,
Yeah.
and maybe even our definition of what it means to be human. We're pushing those boundaries in so many ways.
We are. And who knows, maybe someday living underwater won't seem so strange or futuristic.
Right.
It might just become another way for humans to inhabit this planet, a natural extension of our terrestrial existence.
That's a fascinating thought. But it does lead to a pretty crucial question. If underwater habitats become, more commonplace, how might that change our relationship with the oceans? Will it lead to greater understanding and appreciation?
Yeah.
Or will they just become another frontier for human exploitation?
That's a question we need to grapple with as a society.
Yeah.
The potential benefits of underwater habitats are enormous. But so are the potential risks.
Yeah.
It's up to us to ensure that we use this technology wisely and responsibly.
That's a good point. It's a reminder that technology is a tool.
Yes.
And like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad. It all comes down to the intentions of the user. We have to be mindful of that.
Exactly. As we venture further into the depths,
Yeah.
we need to bring with us a sense of humility, respect,
Right.
and a commitment to preserving the wonders of the underwater world.
Well said. Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive into underwater habitats.
Yeah, we have.
We've seen the vision, the technology, and the potential benefits, but there's still much more to explore.
There is. In the next part of our deep dive, we'll take a closer look at the specific challenges of building and operating these habitats. We'll delve into the engineering marvels that make underwater living possible
Okay.
and explore what it really takes to create a self-sustaining underwater community.
So stay tuned because our journey into the depths is just beginning.
It's going to be fascinating.
I think so too.
So, building on what we were just discussing, imagine you're an aquanaut right now,
Okay.
getting ready for like a month-long mission aboard Sentinel.
Wow. Yeah.
What kind of challenges do you think you might face just in terms of like daily life?
That's a great point. It's easy to get caught up in all the exciting, possibilities of these habitats.
Right.
But we can't forget that living underwater for, long stretches, it comes with its own unique set of hurdles to overcome.
Absolutely. And one of the biggest is like the psychological aspect.
Oh, of course.
You're in a confined space, cut off from the outside world, with the same small group of people day in and day out for weeks on end.
Yeah.
That can really have an impact, even on people who are, typically well-adjusted.
Right. It's almost like being on a spaceship.
Yeah, yeah.
But instead of the vastness of space outside your window,
Uh-huh.
you have the immense pressure of the deep ocean surrounding you at all times.
Right.
That creates a very different kind of isolation, I think, one that could be incredibly disorienting.
Exactly. And then there's, the absence of natural light.
Oh,
Our bodies are designed to follow that circadian rhythm, that cycle of day and night.
yeah.
And without it, things can get messed up. Sleep patterns,
Yeah.
mood, even your physical health.
Yeah, it can throw everything off.
It can. And not to mention, the potential for sensory deprivation down there.
Oh, interesting.
The underwater world is beautiful, sure.
Yeah.
But it's also relatively, quiet and monochromatic compared to what we're used to up here. That could lead to, I don't know, boredom, restlessness, in some cases, even hallucinations.
Wow. So it's really important to think about the crew selection for these missions.
Absolutely.
You need people who are not only mentally resilient, but also, able to work effectively as a team
Yes.
in a high-pressure environment. It's like sending a team to Antarctica, almost.
Right.
But instead of, the extreme cold, you're dealing with extreme pressure and darkness.
Right. You need individuals who can handle the isolation, the confinement, the potential for, unexpected challenges to pop up.
Right. Speaking of physical challenges, we can't forget about the unique effects of pressure on the human body.
Oh, that's right, yeah. Living at depth means your body is constantly under higher pressure than it's used to.
Yeah.
That affects everything from your breathing to your circulation. It can even lead to long-term health issues if it's not managed properly.
And there's always the risk of decompression sickness.
The bends, yeah.
While habitats minimize that risk by, eliminating those repetitive dives, you still need to decompress for several days when you return to the surface. It's a delicate process, and it requires careful monitoring and medical expertise.
It does. It's a good reminder that even with all of our, technological advancements, we're still land mammals at heart.
That's true.
Venturing into this alien environment, we have to respect its rules and limitations.
Right. But even with all these challenges, there's something undeniably captivating about the idea of living underwater. It sparks the imagination.
It does.
It speaks to our innate curiosity, our desire to explore the unknown.
Maybe even a primal connection to the ocean that we all share deep down.
I like that. It's like we're trying to reclaim a part of ourselves that we left behind when we first crawled out of the sea millions of years ago.
Drawn back to the depths, seeking to understand both the world around us and our place within it.
It's a powerful motivator.
It is.
And it's what drives, explorers, scientists, even everyday people to push those boundaries of what we think is possible.
I think so too. But let's shift gears a bit and think about the more practical side of keeping these habitats running.
Right.
How do you keep something like Sentinel running smoothly?
Yeah.
What about, the basics like food, water, power?
Right. The logistics.
Yeah, exactly. How do they handle all that? That's where the engineering becomes truly remarkable. These habitats are essentially a self-contained ecosystem.
Wow. Okay.
Designed to support human life for, extended periods. They have to have their own life support systems, right?
Right.
To provide breathable air, clean water, manage waste disposal.
Makes sense.
It's quite complex.
So instead of transporting everything back and forth on the surface, they're creating these miniature self-sufficient cities under the sea.
In a way, yeah, you could say that. To achieve that level of self-sufficiency, they have to utilize advanced filtration systems and closed-loop recycling technologies.
Yeah.
Air is constantly filtered and scrubbed of carbon dioxide. Wastewater is treated and purified for reuse. It's all about minimizing waste and maximizing efficiency. Every resource is precious when you're living in an underwater habitat.
It has to be. What about power generation?
Right.
They can't exactly run an extension cord down to the seabed.
No, they can't. They often utilize a combination of renewable energy sources like, solar and wave energy. And then they supplement that with underwater cables connected to land-based grids when that's feasible. They have to be very creative with their power solutions.
Yeah, I bet. And what about communication?
Right?
Staying in touch with the surface world is, It's critical, especially in an emergency.
Absolutely. They usually rely on a mix of underwater acoustic modems and fiber optic cables for that.
Okay.
Those fiber optic cables provide the high bandwidth data transfer needed for things like, video conferencing and real-time data sharing.
So they're not completely cut off down there.
Not at all, no.
That's good. It really does sound like a technological marvel.
It is, yeah.
Creating these like self-sufficient underwater communities.
Yeah.
It's an incredible feat of engineering.
Sure.
But all of this cutting-edge technology,
Mhm.
it must come at a pretty steep price, right?
You're not wrong. Building and operating these underwater habitats requires a significant investment. However, as we touched on earlier,
Right.
the potential return on that investment in terms of, scientific knowledge and understanding, it's truly immense.
So you're saying that when you compare the cost of a habitat to the cost of traditional research methods, which, often involve expensive research vessels and repeated dives,
Yeah.
it starts to look a lot more reasonable.
Exactly. It's about shifting our perspective a little bit,
Right.
recognizing the long-term value of establishing that sustained presence in the underwater world.
Instead of these like quick forays.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about the challenges, the logistics,
Yeah.
but we can't forget about, the potential rewards of all of this.
Of course not. Yeah.
What kinds of scientific discoveries could we really make with these habitats?
Now that's where things get really exciting. Just imagine the possibilities.
Okay.
We could study deep sea ecosystems in unprecedented detail,
Uh-huh.
observe marine life behaviors over extended periods,
Yep.
and even conduct experiments that were previously impossible because of those, time constraints we talked about earlier.
Right. We could unravel the mysteries of bioluminescence,
Yeah.
discover new species,
Uh-huh.
maybe even find new sources of food or medicine.
Yeah, the potential is huge.
It is. And let's not forget about the potential for climate change research either.
Absolutely. Yeah.
By studying the oceans, we can learn more about, how climate change is impacting marine ecosystems.
Right.
What steps we can take to, mitigate those effects.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like having a permanent research station, like I said before, in the Amazon rainforest. But instead of trees, you have coral reefs and hydrothermal vents.
Right.
It opens up a whole new world of scientific inquiry.
It does, yeah. It's a thrilling prospect, for sure. And it's what makes this field so exciting to me.
Yeah.
We're on the brink of this new era of ocean exploration, and underwater habitats will undoubtedly play a key role in shaping that future. I really believe that.
Me too. But with all this talk of exploration and discovery, it's important to consider the potential impact on the environment too.
Absolutely, yeah. How do we ensure that these habitats don't harm the very ecosystems we're trying to study? That's a crucial question.
It is. So what steps are they taking to minimize their environmental footprint? How do they approach that?
Well, first of all, they're designing the habitats themselves to have minimal impact on the seabed.
Okay.
They're using advanced materials that are both durable and environmentally friendly. And they're implementing, strict protocols for waste management and pollution control.
That's good. And they're also working closely with marine biologists and conservationists, right, to make sure their activities aren't disrupting sensitive ecosystems or, harming marine life.
Precisely. It's about finding that balance between exploration and conservation.
Right.
Scientific advancement and environmental responsibility.
Yeah.
We're not just visitors in this underwater world.
Yep.
We have a responsibility to protect and preserve it for future generations. That's key.
Absolutely. With all the challenges and complexities we've discussed,
Yeah.
why do you think companies like Deep are so determined to make underwater habitats a reality? What's driving this pursuit?
I think it's a convergence of several factors.
Right.
Scientific curiosity, of course,
Right.
a desire to push the limits of human ingenuity, and also a growing understanding of just how important the oceans are to our planet's health and really our own survival.
It's like we're finally realizing that we can't truly understand our planet
Right.
without understanding the oceans.
Exactly.
After all, they cover over 70% of its surface.
They do. And as we face these, global challenges
Wow.
like climate change, resource depletion,
Right.
the oceans might hold the key to a lot of the solutions.
It's true. They're a source of food, energy, and, even potential medicines.
Right.
By studying them in greater depth, literally and figuratively, we can unlock their secrets and learn how to live more sustainably on this planet.
Yeah. It's a powerful motivator, for sure. And it's what fuels companies like Deep to invest in this, seemingly audacious but ultimately essential pursuit.
It's about expanding our knowledge,
Yeah.
our understanding,
Uh-huh.
and maybe even our definition of what it means to be human. We're pushing those boundaries in so many ways.
We are, yeah. And who knows, maybe someday living underwater won't seem so strange or futuristic.
Right.
It might just become another way for humans to inhabit this planet,
Yeah.
a natural extension of our terrestrial existence.
That's a fascinating thought. It does lead to a pretty crucial question, though.
Okay.
If underwater habitats do become, more commonplace,
Uh-huh.
how might that change our relationship with the oceans?
Right.
Will it lead to greater understanding and appreciation?
Yeah.
Or will they
Yeah.
just become another frontier for, human exploitation?
That's a question we need to grapple with as a society, for sure.
It is, yeah.
The potential benefits of underwater habitats are enormous. We've talked about that.
Right.
But so are the potential risks if we're not careful.
Yeah.
It's up to us to ensure that we use this technology wisely and responsibly.
I think that's a good point. It's a reminder that technology is a tool.
Yeah.
Like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad.
Mm-hmm.
It all comes down to the intentions of the user.
Right.
We have to be mindful of that as we move forward with these kinds of projects.
Exactly. As we venture further into the depths,
Yeah.
we need to bring with us a sense of humility, respect,
Right.
and a commitment to preserving, the wonders of the underwater world.
Well said. Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this second part of our deep dive.
Yeah, we have.
Underwater habitats. We
Yeah.
delved into some of the, challenges, the logistics, the incredible potential rewards.
Uh-huh.
But there's still so much more to explore.
There is. In our final part, we'll explore some of those unanswered questions. We'll delve into the potential impact of underwater habitats on society as a whole
Right.
and discuss what the future might hold for this exciting and rapidly evolving field.
It's a big topic, but I think it's an important one. So stay tuned as we continue our journey into the depths and explore the uncharted waters of underwater living. So we've talked about, all the challenges and the just incredible potential of these underwater habitats.
Uh-huh.
But I'm curious about the timing of all this.
Okay.
Why is there so much interest right now?
Yeah.
Like, what's driving this push for underwater living, do you think?
It's a great question. I think it's a few things coming together at the right time.
Okay.
First, like we've been talking about, there's this growing awareness of how crucial the oceans are to the health of our entire planet.
Right.
They play such a massive role in regulating the climate, absorbing all that carbon dioxide,
Yeah.
supporting, this huge web of life that we all depend on. Right.
And as we're facing this, ever-increasing threat of climate change,
Yeah.
understanding the oceans has become, it's more critical now than ever before.
It does feel like we're finally starting to see the oceans not just as this, vast empty space,
Right.
but as this incredibly complex and interconnected system that's vital to our survival. We need them.
We do. And along with that growing awareness, we've seen some incredible technological innovation happening at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
Advances in materials, science, robotics, renewable energy, you name it.
Mhm.
And of course, life support systems, which is critical down there.
Right.
All
Yeah.
of that has allowed us to create these habitats that are they're more durable,
Okay.
more efficient, and more sustainable than ever before.
So they're actually realistic now.
They're getting there, yeah.
Mm.
These advancements really do make the idea of underwater living far more feasible than it was even a decade ago.
So it's like this perfect storm of scientific need and technological capability. Exactly, yeah. And then you can't forget about the economic potential of the oceans.
Right.
I mean, they're this huge source of food, energy, minerals, even potential pharmaceuticals, all kinds of things.
It's true.
As we're looking for ways to, sustainably manage those resources, underwater habitats could play a really crucial role.
So it's like what do they call the blue economy?
Right, exactly.
It's finally coming into focus, and underwater habitats are this key part of that whole vision.
They are. And it's not just about extracting resources either. It's
Right.
about developing new industries, creating jobs, fostering innovation, the whole package.
So underwater habitats could be this catalyst for economic growth,
Yeah.
not just scientific discovery.
Absolutely, yeah. As these habitats become more common,
Uh-huh.
I think we'll see this whole wave of creativity and entrepreneurship
Oh, interesting.
leading to new technologies,
Right.
new products, new ways of interacting with the underwater world. It's going to be fascinating to watch how it unfolds.
It is exciting to imagine, what innovations might emerge from this whole push into the underwater realm.
Yeah,
It feels like, I don't know, the early days of the internet or even the space race,
I know what you mean.
where this whole new frontier opens up
Uh-huh.
and the possibilities they seem endless. But with any new technology, I mean, we have to be realistic.
Right.
Think about the potential downsides.
Of course.
We can't just rush into this blindly.
No.
We need to think carefully about the ethical implications of expanding our presence into the oceans. Like, what impact will these habitats really have on marine life? Are we going to see, more pollution, habitat destruction? Are we just going to repeat all the mistakes that we've made on land?
Yeah, those are really important questions.
They are.
And they highlight the need for like some really careful planning, regulation, international cooperation, all of that. We need clear guidelines for, the design, the construction, the operation of these underwater habitats.
Right.
And we have to involve marine biologists and conservationists every step of the way.
Yeah.
Can't leave them out of the conversation.
It's about, like you said before, finding that balance
Uh-huh.
between exploration
Yeah.
and preservation,
Right.
between, human ambition and environmental responsibility.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's a responsibility that falls on all of us.
It does.
We need to have an open, honest conversation about the future we want for our oceans and the role that these underwater habitats are going to play in that future.
Okay, so let's bring this back to, our listener for a second.
Right.
Imagine a world where underwater habitats aren't just this, scientific curiosity,
Right.
but they're a part of everyday life.
Yeah.
Like, what might that world look like?
It's a fascinating thought experiment. I mean, we could see underwater cities, right?
Wow. Okay.
With homes, businesses, schools, hospitals, everything. Entire communities thriving beneath the waves.
That's wild.
We might have, underwater transportation networks connecting these communities and linking them back to the surface world.
Right.
Imagine like underwater agriculture,
Okay.
aquaculture,
Right.
energy production, all working in harmony with the ocean environment.
And imagine, like, kids growing up
Yeah,
with the ocean as their backyard, essentially,
that's a cool thought.
learning to swim before they can walk,
Uh-huh.
exploring coral reefs as naturally as, we might explore a forest.
It'd be a whole different way of life.
It would.
Yeah.
It'd be this fundamental shift in our relationship with the natural world, wouldn't it?
It would. But a shift like that, it does raise some important questions.
Oh, yeah.
Like, how would we actually govern these underwater communities?
Right.
Who controls the resources down there on the seabed?
It gets complicated.
It does.
Yeah.
How do we ensure like equal access to these opportunities? Avoid creating new forms of inequality underwater. It's not going to be easy.
No, it's not. These are complex questions, and there aren't, like, easy answers.
Yeah.
But I think, like you said, the time to start thinking about them is now.
It is before it's too late. It's like we're standing on the shores of a new frontier.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
We have a choice to make. Do we rush in blindly or repeat all the mistakes of the past?
Right.
Or do we, proceed thoughtfully, carefully, with a deep respect for the environment and for future generations?
I like that. It's a choice that'll shape the future of, well, our planet and our species, really.
It will, and it's a choice that each one of us has a role in making.
Well said.
Yeah.
As we wrap up this deep dive into underwater habitats,
Yeah.
I hope we've given you, the listener, a glimpse into, the incredible potential of this technology,
Uh-huh.
as well as, the challenges and responsibilities that come with it.
It's a balancing act, for sure.
It is. It's an exciting and thought-provoking topic.
It is.
And it's one we'll definitely continue to explore as this whole field develops.
I hope so. I hope this inspires you to learn more about it,
Yeah.
to ask questions, and to join the conversation about the future of our oceans.
It's a conversation worth having.
It is. The choices we make today will determine what that future looks like.
And ultimately, the fate of the oceans
Yeah.
is intertwined with our own fate. We can't separate the two.
We can't. Well, thank you for joining us
Yeah, thanks for listening.
on this deep dive into underwater habitats.
It's been a fascinating journey. Remember, the oceans are vast,
Uh-huh.
mysterious, and full of wonder.
They are.
They hold clues to some of the, biggest challenges we face as a species.
Right.
And they offer us this, like, incredible glimpse into the diversity and resilience of life on Earth.
It's an amazing world down there.
It is. Let's explore it with curiosity, with humility,
Yeah.
and with a commitment to protecting this precious ecosystem for generations to come.
Absolutely. We have to be good stewards of this planet.
Couldn't agree more. Thanks again for listening.